I ask you, sitting there at the house, ready to do some workout, define speed to me as it applies to throwing a punch. I think a lot of people, even professional fighters, suddenly got lost, right? So how are we going to develop speed? First of all, we have to define it, right? It's kind of like defining, what is that? Radical terrorism, right? Can't beat it if you can't define it. So we're going to define speed a little bit in short. So we got a couple of different types of speed. One is, how fast can I take all of this and make it move in one direction, just that initial pop. Bang! Everyone I work with, when they see me move one area, oh, you're 62 years old and you haven't trained in how many years? Because that initial move is blinding to a lot of people. So you just sit there like this, and it's almost to pretend that my lead hand and my lead foot have a board or pole that ties them together. I got everything in here, so I'm not going to step ahead of the punch, because if I do, that's going to tell my opponent that I'm stepping or I'm going to do something. So he's already moved out of the way or started working counters. I'm not going to punch before I step, because then I lose all my power. So you have to really, really relax and practice that initial move. You start to lean forward until you feel like you're almost off balance. When that foot has to come off the ground, bang, out back, right? Bang, out back, whether it's a punch or a palm heel. Pop. Now, I like for you guys at home to kind of start out with the palm heel, because you're not tightening your fist. People tend to get nervous and tighten up, and the more excited you get, the tighter you get. That's going to burn more fuel, babe. You're going to be tired faster. So you got to keep your hands relaxed, and as your hands are relaxed, not only you're not burning fuel, but you're not incorporating these antagonists. When I ball my fist up, it's for pulling, not pushing. So if I'm got all this pull built into my push, you know, we have an old saying in the fight system, and people that I grew up around, we have a couple of them actually. I'll give you two of them. You know, one of them is, and I live by this. I always ask my guys when they come back to the corner I'm training, does it feel strong? Because if it feels strong, it's wrong. That's one of my cardinal rules about mechanical development. So it's got to be really relaxed. If it feels strong, it's wrong. And my second one is really simple. I live by it, and that is relaxation is the key to success. You fight for a living. If you're tight and not relaxed, how long do you last? Right? You gas out. You know, that's totally unscripted. And I love to, you know, that's straight from a fighter's heart. If you're not relaxed, you gas out. So we don't want to gas out when our life is on the line. Even though the typical fight only lasts a few seconds, you got to think about what happens. It's not a normal day when somebody jumps out and tries to mug you, rape you, rob you, kill you, because chemically you change on the inside. Everything, the adrenaline pops, and that's like putting on the nitric button in your race car. You last for about a quarter mile and you're done. So that 13 seconds is a race, and it goes fast. So we got to teach you through training. And one of the things we're not going to do here today, but you're going to do at home, is you're going to do some conflict within yourself. As you're working out, you're going to be working the bag, and you're going to do it until, I don't care if you do it 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 30 seconds, 10 seconds, wherever you start working, and whatever you're doing doesn't matter. You set your point of view, we'll talk about that, and you work. All of a sudden I feel tired. So I started out good distance outside of my range. I'm working nice and clean. Everything's pretty cool. And I'm tired. I'm having trouble keeping my hands up. All of a sudden, my shoulders, neck, everything's tired. I'm running out of gas, right? So how do I fix that? For me, I'll either frame or pull things in, and I'll close the gap, and I'll just start using my body to punch with. I change from these muscle groups to different muscle groups. So I encourage you that when you're training at home, if you start feeling tired, don't go, well, I'm good for another 10 seconds. I'll just change muscles and keep working. Push yourself.
Hey, Jimbo here with your next tip. This one is about creating an improvised weapon. In this case, how to make a cutting edge from a flexible plastic card, like your credit card. This is an old trick taught to me by a Special Forces buddy of mine who would occasionally have to travel overseas, unarmed and undercover. With this trick, he at least had a cutting tool on him. Sometimes that's all you need. This is also a useful survival tip in case you're ever caught without a knife and need to be able to do some basic cutting. Okay, let's get into it. First thing you got to do is get a plastic card like a credit card. A lot of cards today are not solid plastic, but paper that's been covered by a clear laminate. That won't work. You have to have a solid plastic card. You'll know pretty quickly if it's not solid plastic when you try to sharpen it. In this case, I found an old prescription card that was very thin, but it was solid plastic. I covered up with a duct tape here just to protect their name. Okay, I took it to the workbench and sharpened one edge using a 400 grit sandpaper. If you don't have that and you're in a desperate situation, you can always use concrete or a handy boulder that's nearby to sharpen the edge. Sharpen both sides of the same edge. It doesn't take long. In a couple of minutes, you'll have a sharp edge. Okay, it can't replace a knife, but in short order, you'll have something sharp enough to cut a piece of meat. It also has the potential to be a lethal weapon. I mean, I sure wouldn't want this drawn across my throat. I've got some more lethal U.S. Special Forces techniques that can end a deadly threat in a couple of seconds using nothing but your bare hands. This is pretty grisly stuff, considered to be too violent and deadly for this platform. I've been warned a few times already, so showing this right here, right now on my channel would get me shut down for sure. But you can get them for free simply by clicking on the link in the description. Okay, let's move on to our next tip.
Let's go ahead and break that down. As your opponent grabs you, first thing you want to do is get his attention. Elbow strike right to the chin. You're not trying to knock him out, you're just trying to disrupt him. Second strike, dropping your center of gravity, striking into the nerve cluster right next to the groin with a foreknuckle. As you strike, you're bringing your knee up into the inside of his leg. Again, you're not trying to take him out, you're just trying to disrupt him. Dropping your center even further, you're going to reach up under behind his knee. Shove your shoulder into him, taking your opponent off his feet and onto the ground. You're going to lock his foot into the crook of your elbow. Dropping your center again onto your knees, you're just simply going to hold his foot here, heel your palm into his heel, top of his foot still into the crook of your elbow, turning and laying down until he screams.
Thanks for watching our video lessons here at TRS Direct. Hit the like button down below and consider subscribing to our channel here on YouTube. Hit the bell icon and we'll send you a notification when there's a new lesson available. Thanks again for watching.